I wish I had learned this truth many years ago. Be thankful for the days, good and bad.
All right, welcome to another episode of Warrior versus Zombie, and we've got an amazing guest here today, Renee Reisch, and I'm going to introduce her to you in a second, but first, if you haven't been with us before, or if you've forgotten what Warrior versus Zombie is about, let me explain. Success is a journey, it's not a destination. As warriors, we all have a history of ups and downs, wins and losses that are all part of making us who we are up to this point and provide a foundation for our path forward. We all battle our inner zombie as well as those zombies in our world. In each episode, I interview warriors who are aspiring leaders from all walks of life. Entrepreneurs, artists, health practitioners, business owners, coaches, literally any inspired leader that has a story to tell. These warriors all have a cause, they have unique value, and a vision that goes generations into the future, and today's guest is no exception. Renee Reisch is an incredible warrior. She's an entrepreneur, a coach, a mentor, a trainer, a speaker, and a best-selling author. Her 35-year warrior journey began with 25 years in the corporate world, and like many warriors, decided to begin her entrepreneur journey and start her professional training and speaking as an instructor at WHW, Women Helping Women. Encountering the zombies of a devastating illness that took away her voice, then the loss of her best friend and then her father, Renee decided to live the rest of her life helping others when they feel like life is closing in on them. She's a 4-time #1 international best-selling author for her book, Finding Your Voice, Unlock Your Change and Unleash Your Greatness. She's a speaker, an ambassador for Chemo Buddies for Life, founding member of BeeKonnected, an influencer, transformational coach, using her V.O.I.C.E Blueprint. That's V.O.I.C.E Blueprint. I'm sure we'll hear about that. And she works with women struggling with their limiting beliefs. So Renee Reisch, welcome to Warrior versus Zombie. How is your world there on the West Coast? How are you doing?
It's great, and I'm doing great. And Dave, I want to thank you so much for having me as your guest on Warrior versus Zombie. I'm honored to be here.
I'm excited to have you, Renee, and I'm really excited that we'll have a great journey here. I want to hear a little bit about your world. One of the things, as I started this podcast, it's been an amazing, we're almost at 30 episodes, and all 30 episodes have involved some weirdness. They've all been in 2020, so I've seen so many memes on if 2020 were this. So how's your world? I'm in Texas, and I know you're a little west of me. So how's things in your part of the world?
I'm in Southern California, and things are going well. I'm, happy to be here. I know we're in the midst of a pandemic while this is being recorded here, and I want to make sure that people know that no matter what is going on in the world, you have a choice, and it's making, taking a chance and making a choice, and that's up to you. That's all. It's what you decide you want to do or how you want to view things. So during this time, I'm able to see my mom more. I'm able to spend time with her more, and it's a blessing. I'm able to Zoom all over the world. I've met people in Israel and Peru and Australia and England and Canada. I've traveled more now than I've ever traveled in my entire life. I've virtually traveled. And the connections are so genuine because I've been on like one-on-one Zoom calls and sometimes groups of calls. And it's really incredible. It's what, life is what you make of it. Instead of looking at this like, oh my gosh, now what? I can't do this. I can't do that. What can you do? How can you shift your own paradigm into what you want to see the world as and what you want to view from your standpoint? That's up to you. And you can make it not so good or you can make it good. And that's your choice. And I think that's a big part of it in life. It's, making those choices and being positive instead of what's negative. My mom said, And the other day she told me something that she was having a conversation with my brother. It's like you could take the what's going on with COVID-19 and the negative and make it positive, like turn your negative experience into a positive experience. And that's something that we have that choice to do. So I'm happy that I do that and that I can help others do that as well.
Yeah, I think that it's actually a very positive thing. I mean, in a lot of respects, it is amazing because one of the things that's consistent across every conversation, check-in conversation I've had with every warrior so far, and you are now consistent, is they say, yeah, this is different, that's different. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I'm kind of locked down, but it's opened this door and that door, and I've done this and I've created that. I can tell you, I've shared it on another podcast. I mean, because my family, I have 5 millennial children, and we're all separated during this time and not in the same place. We were concerned about each other, and we weren't able to get together. So we set up a Zoom call that we do every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday at 5:30, where we check in and make sure everybody's okay. We've never been that connected since they became adults and went out on their own before the pandemic. So we are more connected now. One of the things, I think it was Scott Schilling, or one of the first said it, at least I'm going to give him credit. He said, social distancing is not what we're doing here. We are physically distancing, but staying socially connected. And so that's what we're doing. I mean, so I think that's a beautiful thing. And warriors, we look at the things that we can't do and say, okay, I can't do them that way or whatever, and make the changes. And you just illustrated some of those things. So that's beautiful.
Thank you, Dave. I agree with that. It's not social distancing. It is physical distancing. I love the way you said that, or if Scott said that, because it's really true. You can still form relationships and maybe closer relationships than you had before, because you have that extra time and you have that, that special connection that you can form with that time. And it is up to you. This is a time to really look at your life and look at who's in your life and see what matters most, who matters most. Before, we were running around so much and we were running through life that we weren't slowing down to say, hey, you know what, this person's important to me. I have this opportunity to now to form a better bond with them or a stronger relationship through, technology that we have with Zoom and other social media platforms, or FaceTiming through our phones. We have these opportunities, and it's taking advantage of what's available to us rather than saying, I can't do this, I can't do that, and that got messed up, and this got messed up. Okay, well, what can you do? What is available to you? And when you look at it in that way, in that perspective, it's your perceived reality. What can you do? It's a perception. And why is like somebody looking at the glass half full and somebody else looking at it as half empty? It's the same thing. And when you look at it as half full, you actually end up filling it more because it's a more positive way that you're looking at things. And I totally agree with that. It's not social distancing. It is a physical distance. And again, we're able to enjoy people more in our life now than we ever did before and make those special connections.
Absolutely. In Warriors, we focus forward. And if you focus on the door that's closing, you don't see the ones that open in front of you. So that's why this is such a positive time in what would be not maybe a choice of some of the things that we would choose to do if we had a choice. So anyway, well, this has been a great check-in. I think that we're kind of now know where we're at. And when we come back, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Renee, I want to hear about your story. You spent time in the corporate world. There's probably some story there. I don't know. And then you moved into doing your own thing. You've had quite a journey. I was in the corporate world myself. I understand that whole thing. So I want you to share with me and the audience, your story, and get me from where you kind of started or where you want to start us to today. And then we'll come back and we'll take another break. So with that, let's hear a little of Ricky Jean Wright, and It's Not the Getting There, and we'll be right back with Warrior versus Zombie and Renee Reisch.
But the miles become the teacher while the student learns real slow, traveling blind most of the time. Wherever you go, it's not the getting there, it's the journey every day. It's not a race.
All right, we're back with Renee Reisch, and what an amazing check-in we had. And now we're going to hear her story, kind of hear a little bit about how she got here. But before we do that, I want to give a quick shout out to BeeKonnected, where entrepreneurs connect, and invite you to get in on the ground floor of a premier hub for successful warriors, where BeeKonnected empowers warriors from all walks of life, entrepreneurs, home-based business owners, small business owners, CEOs, founders, really anyone, to enable them to connect and collaborate for us all to create a larger impact on the world. So I would encourage you to reach out to BeeKonnected.com. That's BeeKonnected.com. And when prompted, if you want to sign up, use the special code MyVisionWarrior. All right, now we're back to Renee Reisch, and I can't wait to hear your story. How in the heck did you get to where you are today?
Well, that started, that was from the corporate world. As you mentioned earlier in the check-in, you two came from the corporate world. And I was in 2013, when I was working for them, I had an illness that took away my voice, and I was out of work for about 4 months. And then you fast forward, it was actually a very painful journey of losing my voice and being self-quarantined like we are today, not knowing if I'd ever speak again. I was there in the corporate world in that company for 25 years. And in 2013, I had an illness that took away my voice. And then in, 2017, I was released from that company. Part of this journey and where I am today is because of the illness I had. So I don't want to really skip over that, because that was a really integral part of this whole journey. So the 4 months that I was out of commission, so to speak, was the most difficult time in my life, because doctors didn't know if I would ever speak again. And for someone like me, who is a huge connector and loves people and loves to speak and make those really special connections with other people, I had no way to communicate. I was home, I had no voice, and I had no way out, so to speak. When I say no way out, it was because I was quarantined. I was told I was not allowed to be with the public because I was highly contagious. I remember laying on the gurney in the ER, asking the doctor if I was contagious, and he looked down at me because he said, "You're highly contagious. You can't be with the public." I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is what I do. I'm always with the public. What does that look like?" So when you find that out, that's pretty devastating news. Life as you know it comes to a screeching halt. And that screeching halt was extremely painful, not just emotionally, because I was like in a jail cell of my own mind, my own home, but it was also my voice. And it was also the pain of a virus that attacked my vocal cords. So it wasn't just not being able to speak. It wasn't just being home by myself. It was the pain that I was experiencing in a physical way, as well as emotional way and a mental way, because I was trying to wrap my whole head around what was going on. And doctors didn't know how I even contracted such an illness. And they didn't know how to cure me. And that was the scary piece, because you go to doctors because that's what they do. They get you better, or they hope to get you better. And I knew this was something serious when I had taken myself to the ER, not to the ER, to the urgent care. And the urgent care doctor said, "You need to go to the emergency room." And my best friend was with me, and she drove me there. And if it was not for her, I really wouldn't be here today. It was because when you have love in your life and someone who cares about you so unconditionally, that even when you're giving up on yourself and you start to give up on yourself, that person doesn't give up on you. You know, there's more to fight for. So getting here to where we are today, the biggest part of the journey was losing my voice, because that took close to a year and a lot of vocal coaching to get my voice back. So that was something I never would have anticipated. It wasn't something that I ever thought would happen. The reason I can tell you why I believe it happened is because I was running through life so much that I never slowed down to breathe. I never slowed down to take care of me. And I believe I also lost it because I didn't speak up for myself or stand up for myself. It was a metaphoric voice loss as well as a physical voice that I lost. And I believe it manifested physically from the metaphoric loss, not standing up for myself. I never did. I just wanted to please others so much that I became a doormat. And when I got walked on, I thought that was something that I was supposed to do. I didn't want to rock the apple cart. I didn't want to do anything that would make people upset. So I laid myself down and I took whatever it was that was happening. If it was something that they said that I didn't like, I didn't stand up for me at all, ever. And that doesn't do well with somebody who's a strong person. And I wasn't strong. And you go from, I don't want to say weak, but an insecure piece of yourself. You'll have those opportunities. I look at obstacles as opportunities instead of letting something just take you over, which I did at the time. Now it's like that warrior, that zombie to warrior. You become your own champion. And it was because my best friend never gave up on me that I was able to become my own champion.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. So I was just sitting here listening to you thinking, okay, so I had 2 weeks ago today, I had my hip replaced. And I got frustrated in 2 weeks over not being able to do the things that I thought I should be able to do. And now I'm pretty much back to doing what I wanted to do. And to think about you losing your voice and having to go through a 1-year journey, that really makes me feel like, yeah, I'm not going through anything. So your best friend, other people in our lives, right? As warriors, there's a reason why, we go to battle. One of them is for a cause, and another one is because we're there and we've got somebody in the trenches beside us, or somebody that's fighting with us, because that's what the human condition is. So that's an also beautiful thing. So that kind of led you into that discovery of some of the things that you said that were not only just physical that you experienced, but gave you some time to reflect and realize that you metaphorically or spiritually, let's call it, had some things going on as well, which is always the case, right? We're a miraculous creation with a mind, body, and a spirit. And whenever things manifest both in the physical as well as that, there's usually a psychological and there's other components, right? There's other things that often contribute to that. I don't profess to know the answers to those, what those are for any particular situation. Sounds like you've done some analysis there. So anyway, working through that loss of voice, obviously you have your voice now. It sounds fine. Sounds great. So then where did you go from there? Does that get us to today, or is there's some more things that you had to overcome, or what happened there? You said you went through that illness, and then there was a point in time where you went back to the corporate world, and then you ultimately left there. And so what happened after that to get you to kind of today?
So after that time where I was ill, that lasted, as I said, it was a long time before I came back to get my voice back. I was with the company for several years after that. And then in 2017, I was released after 25 years.
Wow.
And I know that was a wow, because I became very depressed when I was ill with the virus in 2013. It was called viral pharyngitis. For those who are wondering, what did you have? It was viral pharyngitis, and it really took a toll on me in many, many ways. And then when I was released from corporate America in 2017, I fell into a depression again. The first time was with the illness, and then it happened again when I was released because I didn't know what I was going to do. I became my job. I became that person. I took on that whole persona, not who I was as a person, but what I did. And that was like my title became me. I allowed that because I spent so much time there. They always say, those experts, right? That you spend more time with your coworkers than you do with your own family. And that was certainly the case with me. I was a manager and I was salaried. So it didn't matter. It wasn't 8 to 5 that you punched a clock. You do what you need to do and then you leave. And if you don't finish it, you've got to somehow work it into your next day. So I stayed late. I never left on time. That's why I ended up getting sick the first time around. I just pushed myself more over and above what was expected because I never thought it was enough. I always had to do more. One more thing. It would make my life easier if I did this. And I always pushed. And then when you push yourself, you get run down. Your body knows what's best for you. And your head doesn't always, and it doesn't follow suit when you're out of alignment. It's not just when you're in a chiropractor, go to a chiropractor, get adjusted. It goes pop, 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 and you get back in alignment. What about the alignment in your life? Are you in alignment there? We go to the doctors to get back in alignment with our health. Are we in alignment with our life? Usually we're not, and that's why we're out of alignment in some other area in our life. And just because you get a physical adjustment or a doctor gives you a prescription to get back in alignment with your health, where are you out of alignment in life? And when you can get that back in, then you will be back into your flow of where you're supposed to be. When I was released from corporate America in 2017, as I said, I fell back into a depression because I didn't know what I was going to do. I started this out by saying I let it define who I was, and I did. Because I even tried to go back into that same kind of a role with another company. I said, I could just go to another, it's got a different marquee on it. I can do that. It doesn't matter. I know what I'm doing. I know what to do. Just go to another company with the same kind of thing. And guess what? I couldn't get hired. This is ridiculous. I could do with my eyes closed. The thing is, because I was so successful in that position, they said, why do you want to work here? One company said you could run this whole store because I had been so successful. I ran multiple teams. I became number one in our district, or region, the company, the country. I was very successful as a leader, as a coach. I coached different teams. I had multiple teams at one time. Some were commissioned, some were not commissioned. They were millennials, some were older. I had all mixed, and I was able to bring all of them to a number one position because I got to know the people. It wasn't as a group, it was an individual. I also said that a connector. That's the biggest thing. I love to connect with a person and get to know who they are. And so you said, how does it bring me to today? That's what I love so much about what I did, is connecting with people. And a good friend of mine who I went to a seminar, and again, connections. And she brought me there. I met her. Actually, she didn't bring me there. I met her while I was at one that I was invited to. And then she started bringing me to other ones. Her name is Tamara Hunter. She's the CEO and co-founder of Chemo Buddies for Life. I'm an ambassador there. And that the premise is no one should face cancer alone. Well, when I met her, that was another part of my journey, because she started taking me to all these other events. So I was that event hopper. I was going from one to the next. And then eventually, when she wasn't going anymore, I was still getting invited to them. So I kept going. I kept meeting more and more people. And that is, passion is connecting with people and serving them. And as a coach now and a mentor now to others, that's what I do. So that was a roundabout way to getting to the answer. How did I get to where I am now? It's by finding my voice in another way. I went to women helping women. I was taking computer classes because my brother said, you need to if you're getting back in the corporate world, you need to hone your skills, your PowerPoint, your Word, Excel. I'm like, oh my God, I never took any of that. And I was in corporate. I was doing schedules. I wasn't looking at those. The schedules were on a sheet that I would just fill out in the Excel form that I didn't create. I had somebody else that created. I just had to fill in the blanks. So I took all those classes, and then I started going on this part of my journey in discovering my voice in another way and knowing that I love to teach as well as learn. So while I was at Women Helping Women, I was a teacher. I was an instructor there as well as a student there. And I know I'm always going to be a student of life and a teacher for others. And that's part of this journey too.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, I so relate to the whole thing of, first of all, in being in the corporate world, and it's actually even more common with men than women, but obviously it happens with women too, as you begin to, your identity is totally tied up in what you're doing. And so when you say, well, what do you do? You know, I was a father, a husband, involved in a lot of different things, but I define myself as an executive or a partner at Accenture. You know, I defined myself in those ways at that time until I realized that that's not who I am at all. That's only what I do. And when that's taken away from you, or even if you step out of it on your own, I mean, I got to tell you, it still can be very depressing. It can be very, and that's why I say, retirement needs to be redefined. And I work with a lot of warriors who move from, let's say, their corporate into whatever they're doing next. But the key is you first have to come back to, why are you doing why does God have you on the planet? We all have a unique reason for being on the planet. We all have unique value. Doesn't matter what the job title is. We all have unique value to bring to our relationships, to our job, to everything we do, right? And so, but when you're hit with the thing where they released you after 25 years, and you've gotten comfortable and hadn't really revisited that. It's amazing to be at an age of, I've talked to people 40, 50, 60 years old, and they say, I still haven't figured out what I want to be when I grow up. I mean, it's a human condition, right? And if that's taken away from you and you haven't given a thought, it is very easy to fall into depression and despair. And so I'm excited that you worked through that. The amazing thing to me is you did something that I actually advise clients to do, and I don't remember if we've ever talked about this, is you started helping women. You started doing things and using your gifts, using your value, doing things that you were doing before, maybe not for that same purpose, and realize that, hey, here's my unique value. And oh, by the way, on this journey now, I've had to learn some things to get through this thing, and I can help others because other people are here, right, going through the same thing, which is the limiting beliefs, the depression, the things like that. Well, this is great. I really, I think we're really at a good place here for this. With your story, because I really want to hear in the next segment about, what you're doing today, why you're doing it, what the value you're providing, and if anything were possible, where would you take it? And I want to make sure we have enough time for that. So let's take another quick break. We'll hear a little more Ricky Jean Wright, and It's Not the Getting There. And we'll be right back with this amazing journey with Renee Reisch and Warrior vs. Zombie.
It's not a race to see how many people know your name. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know. Funny how.
All right, we're back with Warrior versus Zombie and Renee. Man, we've had such a great couple of segments here. What a story, losing your voice, going through a lot of nuggets there, learnings about powering through things like that. But now we're to today, and I want to really talk about what you're doing right now, why you're doing it, what value you provide, and if anything were possible, where would this go from here? So take it away, Renee. Tell me about that.
Well, it really wouldn't be possible without a book that I wrote, and I am really proud of it. It's called Finding Your Voice, Unlock Your Chains, and Unleash Your Greatness. I wrote this book because I didn't want others to suffer the way I did. So people say, what's your unique value? What sets you apart? We all go through things in our life, and we all have a journey that we're on. But what I did with this book is I made it into a workbook. And I know there's a lot of books out there that are also workbooks. But I wanted to take my readers through a journey, not just my journey, but be part of their own journey. And so what I've done in this book is I've left room after each chapter, and I posed questions to them to write down the answers. And I left like 3 or 4 pages for them to write the answers on the pages that followed, because I know the power of the pen is strong, and what comes up will come out. So I left that because I wanted them to look at their own life and see what different things that have taken place that they can relate to from the book and how they can incorporate it into their life and work through some of those things. So through our words, we have a voice. And I've chosen to do that within this book, Finding Your Voice, Unlock Your Chains, and Unleash Your Greatness. The chains I was in were my own chains. And I think that holds true for many of us in life. And Unleash Your Greatness, we also all have greatness within us. And it's letting that out and seeing that and seeing what's possible. So what I've done with this book is I turned it also into a course. So it's something that I now take my clients through, and I have groups of anywhere between 15 to 20 at a time, because I like to have a small group. I don't want it to be so big. I like the intimacy of a group. And sometimes when you have too many people in it, it loses that. And I like people to have a voice in the group. And in so doing that, I created a V.O.I.C.E Blueprint. It's based on the butterfly effect. I was like, well, what is that? If you think about it, a butterfly starts out as an egg, like we all do. And then from that, it goes into the caterpillar, where it's crawling as we crawl in our life. And then from there, it goes into a chrysalis. It's that shell that it goes into, and it spends some time in that shell, only to emerge as a butterfly in the adult stage. So the V.O.I.C.E Blueprint is based on the butterfly effect and going through those stages. And each letter of voice, it's an acronym. And we go through the different stages, and I walk the clients through that. I'm there each week with them. So they can have either a 6-week course or the 12-week course, which dives even deeper into each of those different modules if they're interested in that, and really taking a look inside. If you're ready to go on a journey, I'd love them to join me, because this is something that really helped me. This is how we find our voice. You don't have to lose it physically as I did. But I also know that there's a metaphoric loss of our voice in our own life. My main niche is women, because I know as a woman, It was something that I struggled with so much. My own limiting beliefs, my own self-doubts. Earlier, I said that I laid down like a doormat because I thought I was supposed to. No one's supposed to lay down like a doormat. I didn't want to stand up. I didn't think I was supposed to lay down like a doormat. I want to clarify how I said that earlier because it was sitting in my head. I'm like, I wasn't a doormat. I made myself that way. I didn't stand back up when people knocked me down because I didn't want to cause any friction. And I thought if I was silent, then everything would be okay and that there wouldn't be an argument wouldn't ensue. There wouldn't be anybody having ill feelings because I said something against what they said. But I've learned in life, you've got to stand up for yourself. You've got to speak up. And if people are taking advantage of you in any way, physically, emotionally, mentally, any way, they should not be in your life. And you should not sit down. You should stand up for yourself. It's like, who are you allowing in your sandbox? And the more you keep, going to have a conversation with them and you're inviting that back in. Sometimes silence is gold and you walk away from that. Use your voice and stand up for yourself and then walk away and don't engage. The more you engage, like what you resist persists. The more you keep going towards something, the more it's going to keep coming up. If you resist it, then it's going to not go away. You need to stand up for yourself and then leave that area, leave that relationship if you can. It's not always easy. People are in relationships for many reasons. A lot of times, if it's a marriage, it has to do with children. Children are involved. They can't just up and leave. Certain things in my own life that you have to be that strength, be that person, be that champion, be that warrior. Don't look for the outside validation of being good enough. You are good enough just because you're you. You don't need somebody to tell you that. I also used to look for that, for all of those things I used to get from my corporate job, the awards, all of those things. And I felt if I wasn't getting awards, I wasn't recognized for doing a good job. You don't need a piece of paper to tell you're good. When you can put your head down at night on your pillow and know that you've done good for the day and you did the right thing, even when people weren't, they weren't looking, you still did what was right. You know you're enough.
That's beautiful. So if anything were possible, so you've got this book and it sounds like a great voice process that you take your participants through. Are you taking anything beyond that right now? Or are we trying to increase the audience, expand? What if anything were possible? And that's something, those are words that I always use because anything is possible. It's only limited by what we can dream or imagine is the only limitation because I've seen way too much of things that seemed impossible to me be accomplished or seen other people do things. So what, if anything were possible, where would this go? What would the impact be or what would you be looking at?
I am looking to create a movement because that's what this is. It's our voice that needs to be heard. And we need to be in the right space for it to be heard. So I created this safe environment to come to. And I want to create this big movement. It's a global thing I'm looking at. And I'm not looking to play small because, when you play small, that's what you're going to get. And I really want this was created for the women out there. And yes, can I help men too? If there's men out there listening, go, well, what about me? They have their limited beliefs too. And sometimes even more so because they're a man, because they have that machismo persona that they feel they have to uphold. And that's maybe not who they authentically are. So, they're not feeling that strength that they feel they're supposed to have, or wearing the pants in the family, whatever that is in their own mind, whatever story they tell themselves. So I will always welcome a conversation to see if that's the right fit. But my main niche, as I said, is women. And it is to create a movement and to have women join me in that movement and to join my course with me, the journey. And I love that. I love being able to serve others in this way And the reason I said I did it is because I didn't want others to go through the pain I did. If you've suffered so greatly and you do nothing with it, then what was the purpose? I truly believe from our pain comes our purpose. I did nothing with what happened for me, not to me. Having an illness that took away my ability to communicate, the thing I love most aside from God and my family, is speaking and connecting. I was unable to do either. I was locked away. Someone who's so outgoing, who loves life and loves to be with others, couldn't do anything. I couldn't even have my own voice to communicate my needs or my wants or my hurt or anything. I had no way to communicate. I couldn't even go out to say, help, I need help. I couldn't say anything. There was no way. So it was a hellish time for me. Coming out of it and looking back upon it as a growth process to be able to now give back and serve others in this way is a gift that I've been given. It's a choice, and I'm taking it. It's an opportunity. You know, our obstacles, as I said, become our opportunities. Had I done nothing with it, it wouldn't have been worth the hurt that I went through and the pain. The fact that I chosen to do this is a gift that I want to give back to others.
I love it. I mean, that's the whole thing. Out of the pain comes the purpose, and clearly you've got to. I mean, I love the movement with your book being an international bestseller. You're getting your message out there, and creating a movement all over the world seems well within the realm of possibility. So that's an awesome vision. Well, let's do this. Let's take a quick break. And what I want you to do, and you've given so many good nuggets along the journey here of this podcast. When we come back, I want you to give me 1, 2, 3, you pick the number of, if we take away anything from this podcast, any 1 or 2 or 3 things, what would you want to make sure we took away? And then once you share that, then I'll make sure our audience knows how they can follow back up with you. So let's take a quick break. We'll hear another little snippet of Ricky Jean Wright, and It's Not the Getting There, and we'll be back with Warrior versus Zombie and Renee Reisch.
Funny how wisdom and youth are always 2 different games. The years flew by so fast, is the common human complaint. The memories in our minds turn to diamonds in our soul, and by the grace of God.
All right, now what a journey we've had. Okay, so we've heard all about Renee and her voice and her creating a movement, and just wow, so many nuggets that you've given me to think about in the audience. So as I said before the break, Renee, what are things, if we take away anything that we've heard from your story or from where you're at today, or even your check-in, that you would want the audience to take away, what would that be?
There are a couple of things. And one is something that my best friend taught me, and it's to never give up. She never gave up on me when I was so sick. Even when I wanted to give up on me, she never did. She would come with homemade chicken, and she would come with groceries that she thought I could muster down, with foods and some liquids that she thought I could try to swallow, as painful as it was. She never gave up on me. And when people don't give up on you, don't give up on yourself. The other thing is to be you. Be yourself. Be authentic. People, they can tell when you're kind of not the real you. Sometimes you know when people are trying to be somebody else. And especially when we're in another position, another role, that we feel like we have to play a certain part. But it takes no effort to be you. So why would you want to be anybody else? It was a quote from Judy Garland. I don't have it in front of me, so I hope I get it right. It was, why try to be a second-rate version of someone else rather than a first-rate version of yourself? It was something to that effect. So I may have gotten it perfectly, and if I didn't, it's going to be something like that. But that's what it is. And if you think about it, why would you want to be a second-rate version of anybody else? You were born into this life for you. And my journey, I relate it to the Wizard of Oz, quite frankly. And people may be listening and go, what is she talking about now? And it's because if you think about it, and Dorothy was in Kansas, she went to go to Kansas, right, to see the Wizard of Oz, because she wanted to try to get home to Kansas. That's when she left, when she was on this dream that it turned out to be. And she was thrown into this journey on her way to see the wizard, to try to get back to Kansas. She met the Scarecrow as he was looking for the brain. She met him on her journey to Oz. He was really the smartest one there. Then when the next one she met was a Tin Man, looking for a heart. He was the most sensitive of all. Then she came upon the Cowardly Lion, who was scared of his own shadow, yet the Wicked Witch, and he stood up for everybody. The Cowardly Lion, who wasn't so cowardly after all, stood up to everybody. As they approached the land of Oz and they got there, there was a little man behind the curtain who was pulling the strings, so to speak, one who they thought they needed. It wasn't Oz, it wasn't the wizard. They had the power within each of them the whole time. So everything we need is within us now. To look for outside sources to validate who you are, you don't need any of that. You have that within you. Yet we do look for those people and those sources, those validations, to validate who we always have been. And even Dorothy with the slippers to get back to Kansas. She didn't have to click her heels 3 times for those ruby slippers. She too was able to go back as soon as she wanted to. It was a choice. I said this in the beginning of this podcast. We have the chance to make the choice and make a change. And that is the power within each of us that we hold.
Wow. Well, one of the things I have to say is The Wizard of Oz was always one of my favorite shows. I can't tell you how many times I watched that movie growing up. So I love that metaphor. I love that story and how it's so true. But I think the point of really never giving up, perseverance, knowing that there is a purpose, there is a reason, you were here, and continuing on with that, and then being who you were meant to be or are meant to be, and being authentic to that are 2 incredibly powerful takeaways, and they're within us, which is what the warrior always finds out. Well, this has been amazing. I really appreciate Renee sharing with us here. So how does we stay in touch or get in touch with you after this podcast? I know that they can listen to this podcast over and over again, but how do we follow back up with you?
You can reach out on my website, which is reneereisch.com. And you can message me there, and I'd be happy to connect.
So reneereisch.com, and that's ReneeReisch.com, correct? Okay, just wanted to make sure. So, because if you don't spell it right, it doesn't work, right? So I wanted to make sure that the audience could find you. I'm sure that they're going to want to do that after this podcast. Well, this has been incredible. I really thank you. Appreciate you being part and parcel to Warrior versus Zombie and sharing with our audience. So anyway, I thank you, Renee.
Thank you so much, Dave. It truly has been an honor to be here and to share our voices together. So I want to thank you.
Yes, it's been a beautiful thing. So, well, those warriors that are listening here, and maybe you found us for the first time, you can literally find us on every podcasting platform, from Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it, we're on it. And so wherever you found us today, that's great. If you want to come back or you want to look for us on another episode, this is episode 29. And also I want to give one more shout out to BeeKonnected. That's where entrepreneurs connect, BeeKonnected.com. That's BeeKonnected.com. They're our sponsors. And use the special code MyVisionWarrior when you get a chance to enter it. Okay? Well, and with that, let's hear the final segment of Ricky Jean Wright. And it's not the getting there. And we'll see you back for our next episode of Warrior versus Zombie.
It's not the getting there, it's the journey every day. It's not a race to see how many people know your name. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there, when you get there you'll know. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there, when you get there you'll know.